All right, we should be live. Let me just check real quick. Yeah, it looks like we are going. Today we're gonna do a little stream. I feel like when was the last time I streamed? I want to say last week at some point. But we are going to talk about I have a Robert Greene video pulled up. Let me just make sure it's on the screen. Yeah, it's on the screen. Um, and I don't think we've talked about Robert Greene in a very long time, which is unfortunate. I feel like I've kind of moved away from that side of reading, the sort of pseudo self-help, pseudo psychology, and not that it's not an interesting genre. It's just I feel like I've my interests have changed, but I really do appreciate Robert Greene because I feel like he was really a lot of the segue for me to go into exploring Carl Jung or Nietzsche or Dostoevsky or I don't know if he ever mentioned Emerson, but all of the people that I love, I've discovered kind of through Robert Greene. I feel like he's kind of just at least made me familiar with some people that I otherwise wouldn't know. And the way that he was able to like kind of summarize their ideas and kind of synthesize them and make them something compelling, that's a skill in and of itself. And he is really interesting in podcasts as well. So if you ever get a chance to listen to him in podcasts, he has some great wisdom.
It's very difficult when you don't have any direction, when you don't have any filter telling you what matters, what's important, and what's not important, because there's so many things to choose from out there in the world today, particularly now.
I think there's like paralysis through, would this be the right phrase? Paralysis through analysis, where it's like we have so many options. This is really not the right example, but we have so many things in front of us that it's hard to choose. You know what I mean? Like you go on the internet, there's countless and countless and countless and countless videos that you could pick, and it's almost daunting at some point. Like I'm sure we've all been there. We're on Netflix and we're like, there's so many movies I want to watch. Which one do I choose? Or there's so many things like I I I can't even pick something. Like it's when you go to a restaurant and the menu is just endless and you just don't even know where to go. That's really what he's talking about. And I feel like we kind of live in a world where we're so distracted and we're so pushed in all these different directions that sometimes it's very difficult to see what it is that you really want.
So, the critical thing you want is to know the most important thing that you're pursuing in life. How do you decide what is truly important to pursue? Okay. It's kind of a vague question because what are you pursuing? I mean, in your days off, when you're in your leisure time, it probably
What's up,
means
Sahita? It's been a
like
long
your
time.
career or what's
Where you been? I've definitely been streaming every day.
important to you or what matters. I'm going to try and look at it from that angle because I can't tell you what to pursue in your daily life, what gives you pleasure. But I do know this: we humans don't operate.
So this, if you like this conversation, you should read Mastery by Robert Greene. He's basically ripping off his idea from that book. I won't
By
spoil it, but
instinct. We operate by thinking, by rationality, by our
where have I
willpower.
been? I've been busy. It's not even that I've been busy. It's just like, I don't know. I've just been like doing random stuff. Just haven't sat down to stream. Haven't really wanted to, in all honesty. Like I've sat down and I've been like, all right, I can stream. But then I'm like, well, I'm tired. Well, I'm this, well, I'm that. So it's like, there's something where it's like, I don't know if it's necessarily good for me to stream when I don't want to, because then it might make me, I don't know, one less entertaining. And like I'm not doing it for the right reasons, so it's not as fun. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I don't want to burn out, so I'd rather just not stream if I don't want to stream.
So we're not directed. So we don't wake up in the morning like an animal might that has its needs that it's going to take care of. It doesn't have to think, it just does what it does. We have to think, we have to go, what am I going to do today? Where am I going to go? Who am I going to see? I mean, if it's not in your work, or even if it's your work, how am I going to get to work? What am I going to do? And that kind of freedom can be overwhelming, right? And it can actually be very frustrating and very paralyzing. I know, as an analogy, as someone who's slightly OCD, I have to admit, if I go to the market and there's like 1,000 products I have to choose from, it drives me crazy.
I get it, but like catching you live finally, yeah. Well, I feel like I don't know because I streamed at night a few times. And I know that doesn't work for you. I have to make it where it's like I can just turn on my screen. I already have videos queued up that it's like all ready to go. maybe I should just open tabs so that like if I have like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, I can just turn it on and go. I don't know.
Busy. I have
Maybe
to
that's a good
think too
idea.
much. I can't decide which one I like. And so life is very difficult when you don't have any direction, when you don't have any filter telling you what matters, what's important, and what's not important, because there's so many things to choose from out there in the world today, particularly now. So the critical thing you want is to know
What's
the
up,
most
Amy? Dude, everyone's here. It's weird. I haven't seen you guys in so long.
important thing that you're pursuing in life, which in my books you'll know as I call your life's task, right? You know deep
Your life's task is basically his like when he's talking about his life's task, like think about like aligning your skill set with things that you are passionate about. So like um in his book Mastery, he talks about, Da Vinci was very, very, very like able to notice details that other people wouldn't. So he paired this with his painting and it made something that he was passionate about and he was also gifted at. So it's like using your skills, using the things that you have for the sake of something that you care about. Like for the sake of, like, there's people that go to their job and they like the paycheck, but they don't like anything else about it. Then there's people that don't necessarily like the paycheck, but they love their job. He's talking about the second aspect of it. And it's almost a balancing game of finding something that you're in love with and something that you're good at. There's a art to it, and I feel like few too many people nowadays kind of consider these things. And it's like to me, would I rather be happy or be rich? I think they're two very different things. A lot of people try to combine those, but I think I'd rather be happy. Like if I wake up in 30 years and I don't want to go into work and I have to go into work, that to me feels like a prison. Whereas even if I have to work to pay my bills and I like my job, who cares? That's just my mindset with things. I'm good. How are you? I feel like it's been a while since like I don't know. When was the last time I saw you? I mean, I feel like it was earlier in the summer. Now it's
who
almost
you
fall,
are,
or it
what
is fall.
excites you, what kind of career you want, the kind of things you want to study, the skills you want to develop, the business you want to create, the book you want to write, the film you want to make, etc. Okay? You have an idea about that. It's like an anchor in your life. It's like giving you radar. So every time someone comes into your life with something, saying, "Hey, come on, let's go do this, or let's go travel here, or let's try this," your mind goes, that's not important. It is not related to the goals in my life that truly matter. This is what matters to you, okay?
So I think people are kind of weird with this idea. So it's like I've heard it like hustle culture. I think it's like one of the dumbest phrases ever because it's like if you like doing something, who cares if you work hard about it? But it's like if that's all you are, if all you are is a workaholic, then like you're letting other facets of your life go unfulfilled. And if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. And then you have the other side where it's like, well, I just want to have fun. I just want to do this. I just want to do that. And it's like there's aimless pursuits, and then there's pursuits that you can enjoy while you're doing. So it's like right now, this is the pursuit of a goal for me. Like right now, this is fun. This is enjoyable. And I'm actually doing something in my mind productive. It might not be productive for everyone else viewing it, but to me, I'm like working towards something. So even if I don't get what I'm looking for out of it, I'm still learning. I'm still growing. I'm still enjoying it. I'm still pursuing something beyond, just pleasure or just work, 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 work. Like I'm kind of hitting the balance of both. So I think like we need to start reframing these things and start understanding that everything in life is trade-offs. Like, yeah, you could go on all these vacations, but it means they're not going to have money in the future to save, to, take that risk to start that business. So it's like, is that really worth it?
So you have to understand that life is very, very short. It goes by so fast, you have no idea. I can't believe that I'm in my 60s right now because to me, I'm still in my 20s. It just went like that. It's going to happen to you. You don't realize it's going to happen to you. Okay. So
I think he had health issues too. So he looks pretty good for 60s because I think he had a stroke a few years ago.
having a sense
Yeah, it's all about the balance. I think it's a lot of people don't want to like recognize that there's trade-offs. Everyone wants to think that like oh, well, I could be anything I want to be. I could do this, I could do that. And it's like, I mean, nothing in this world is free. Even a free lunch comes with something attached to it. Like now you're under that person's wing. Now you kind of have to, listen to their conversation. Now you kind of have to be their friend. Like nothing in this world will ever be given to you for free. It always comes attached with something. It always takes something away, and just being okay with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's when you fail to accept it, that's where the issues occur.
Of what really matters, which is
You can't have your cake and eat it too.
what you were meant to pursue in life, your destiny, your life's task. And for that purpose, I urge you to read Mastery in the first chapter, Discover Your Life's Task.
Master is a
Without
really,
that
really good book.
sense, you're going to be floundering, you're going to be wandering, you're not going to know what you.
I think Mastery is his second best book, I'm gonna say. Um, Maybe it would be worth it to go through it again. Maybe it would be worth it to go through the chapters and talk about the influence and how they have kind of directed me. That might be a good video series to do. I started going through psycho-cybernetics, but dude, I'm just like, I don't know, it's gonna take me like 30 minutes to go through the next chapter and then another 15, 20 to make a video about it. So I'm just like, I'm just putting it off. I did the tier list yesterday. That was like 2 hours of work. It's so it 2 hours of work for a video doesn't sound like a lot, but I really shouldn't say this, but it takes me 10 minutes to film one video normally because it's just I just open the book, I talk about what I want to talk about, and I can just talk off the top of my head, and whatever comes out, I enjoy, so I just post it. But like, oh, it's so much investment, so much time.
Your priorities are, what really matters, what not to waste time on, okay? Because we live in a culture with an infinite variety of distraction, and that's our danger. That's really the danger. You get on the internet, you click, 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 you're going here, here, here.
How many times have you done that where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna pull up one video, and then you're on the YouTube Shorts, and you're like, it's 20 minutes later, you're like, ah. I feel like it's been happening to me a lot lately. I feel like the algorithm for YouTube Shorts got a whole lot better, and it's a lot more addicting. It's actually a problem. Like I deleted TikTok off my phone for that reason, just because I was like, I'm not doing anything that I feel like is useful. Maybe it's nice to have some like mind-numbing entertainment, but I can have a little bit more intellectual, mind-numbing entertainment. I can learn about philosophers. I can learn about books. Like, let me just go on YouTube. But now that the shorts feed is better, it's getting dangerous.
Here, all these different places, right? And you're not focused. You can waste your time on a thousand different things. It's destructive. It's destroying your brain. It's like sugar. It's rotting out your system because you're not able to focus. You're not able to prioritize. You don't understand what matters, what's trivial, what's banal, and what really matters. And what really matters in life, I believe, is fulfilling your destiny, knowing what you were meant to create in this world, and going in that direction, which is your life's task. When you figure that out, everything fits into place.
And I don't know if he's necessarily going to say it, but it's the pursuit of this that's the purpose of your life. Like finding out what you want to do and then doing it. And most people focus on the end goal, but it's really the journey that matters. It's like the Tolkien quote, not all who wander are lost. It's about the in between. It's about, you have your birthday and your death day. It's what you do in that dash that means anything. Um, that's really what he's saying. Because, think if you won the lottery today and you had all the money in the world that you could ever ask for, would you be happy? Maybe for a little bit, but I feel like it would eventually feel hollow, it would eventually feel empty because you didn't have to do anything for it. And maybe you find something that you're passionate about along the way, but this is why so many people that win the lottery piss it away. It's because they always need to chase something else. It's just a hollow purchase when they get that supercar. It's a hollow purchase when they get that mansion. They didn't work for it. Versus somebody that really worked for it. You think about like those first generation of old money, like the Rockefellers, the JP Morgans. Cornelius Vanderbilt's a great example of this. Cornelius Vanderbilt built one of the most, well, he did it brutally, but he built an empire of, what was it, railroad empire, and in 3 generations it was pissed away because nobody worked hard for that money, so they didn't appreciate it. It's this idea. It's working towards a purpose and working hard, failing, learning the ins and outs, learning what it takes, doing that trial and error. It's the hero's journey. I mean, the hero's journey is really a tale of heroism. It's also a terror. It's also a tale of you. It's the tale of what's going to give your life purpose, going out there facing your fears, going out there and facing the dragon and fighting it. What's up, Samuel? I hope I said that right.
I know, I mean, I'm a bit of an
How's it
extreme
going?
example. I know I have a book to write, right? And so, so many other things that could bother me and distract me, I just cut it out because they don't matter. I have a sense of supreme priority. And
All right, we're gonna go to this video. This is a video I saw the other day, and I meant to do a stream on it, and um, I just I don't know if I got busy or I started reading a book and I didn't want to put it down. I can't remember what it was, but I think it's never been more important to study Carl Jung because you can obviously see the events that are going on in the world, all the terrible things happening. Roughly speaking, everything that you do to others is a reflection of how you view yourself. So if you are out there taking your anger out on others, you are a coward. If you're out there hurting others, you're a coward. Um, any act of violence is really just misplaced aggression towards yourself. So with that said, I really, really, really want to, in the next coming weeks, next coming months, focus on these sorts of ideas, on how to find yourself, on how to find what it is that you really want, curtail your negative impulses into more positive ones, start coming to grips with yourself because if you accept yourself, you accept other people. That's really all it is. How do you maintain discipline for your passion if no one wait, purpose of life is to live it, yes. How do you maintain discipline for your passion if no one's on your head to get you to do your work? Uh, I guess there's a level of accountability. I mean, that's like the gift and the curse of being an entrepreneur. This is what a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you is that there's nobody telling you to do anything. There's nobody sitting there over your shoulder, and it's really your responsibility. And that's why a lot of people just aren't willing to be entrepreneur. Not saying that there's not other risks, not saying that there's not other struggles, but I mean, that's really the mental aspect of being like a self-starter and holding yourself accountable. It's like, what do you do when no one's looking? That's really who you are. I mean, if you're somebody that does the things that they're supposed to do when nobody else is around, then you are an honest person. Then you're somebody that is honest with yourself. But if you're somebody that procrastinates, if you're somebody that says, well, I'll do it in 20 minutes, I'll do this, I'll do like whenever you start justifying something, whenever you start making excuses, that's when you are not going to do it. And again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just, are you willing to not get to where you want to go? Because if that's the case, then keep justifying. If that's the case, then keep making excuses. But it's just like, I don't know, you have to be like a certain level honest with yourself in order to get over these things. But it's also like, I mean, this could also go in the other direction where it becomes like a OCD level obsession. This is really the reason I stopped journaling is because I would write down stuff I had to do each day and it would be in my head all day and I'd be obsessed about it and it wouldn't go away. And I feel like it kind of lowered the passion I had for the things I was doing. So I would always get everything done, but it would just be me going through the motions versus me actually enjoying it. And I think there's all sorts of trade-offs to these things. But really, it just takes accountability. It just takes you looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, you know what? I've been lazy lately. I haven't been doing what I wanted to do. There's a reason why I don't feel good right now. It's because I have been neglecting my health. I've been eating bad. I've been going to bed late. I've been having too much caffeine. Like, there's all sorts of these conversations that if you just have with yourself, the answer's right there. It's just we're not listening to it. That's stressful. What the journaling? That's yeah, it was like I wouldn't say it ever got bad. It was always just like it just got to a point where I'm like, this is just taking the fun out of the things that I want to do, so I'm not doing it. And it's no longer there. There's no longer that stress anymore.
I want to read a passage from one of his lectures, which I think is one of the greatest things he ever wrote, and which has been a very marvelous thing for me. It was in a lecture delivered to a group of clergy.
I think it's like we have to be balance of both the analytical mind and the creative mind, we'll say. The analytical or passive, active, passive, whatever you want to say. there's all sorts of metaphors to use, but you see the people that struggle the most in this world are using only one side of their brain. You know, you have the what are they called? The rational materialists, and then you have like the creatives, and like it's not good to be too far in one direction. I mean, you saw with the events yesterday, it's not good to be too far in one direction. Like when you're all the way over here, you're tipping the scale this way. When you're all the way over here, you're tipping the scale this way. It's just you need balance in your life. So it's if you can find room for creativity and find room to maximize that creativity, start using your more analytical, rational faculties in relation to that. Like the example, I don't know if I explained it all the way, but what Da Vinci would do is essentially Da Vinci would sit in the woods and study how the leaves fell, how they grew, how they changed, everything to do with how leaves appeared and grew and eventually decayed, so that he could draw them perfectly in his paintings. And now that's a masterful level of applying both the analytical and the creative mind together. But it's like we can do the exact same thing. Like I can set aside 30 minutes where I'm going to write. I can set aside an hour where I'm going to stream. I can set aside a little bit of time in my morning routine so that, I can film a video. And it's like it's just little things like that where we can start to use one facet of our brain in relation to the other, and that's really where the magic comes from. That's really where the Teslas, the Einsteins, that's where the greatness comes from. And that's why I will always tell people to read, because reading has a great way of combining both of these. Not only do you have to understand the philosophy, but you also have to understand the symbols. You have to create the picture in your mind of the scene that's happening and relay that in real time with the facts that you've been given, and think about the implications of this scene. And there's so much mental faculties going into this one act at the same time, and it's so enjoyable. So like that's really why I want everyone to read. But
in Switzerland, a considerable number of years ago, and he
if you can learn how to think, if you can learn how to learn, you can do anything. By the way,
writes as follows. People forget that even doctors have moral scruples, and that certain patients' confessions are hard even for a doctor to swallow. Yet the patient does not feel himself accepted, unless the very worst in him is accepted too. No one can bring this about by mere words. It comes only through reflection, and through the doctor.
think about like I feel like this is a conversation, and rightfully so. This is a good conversation to have. But there's several videos of like bodybuilders going online and being honest and saying like, yeah, even at my peak, I didn't feel okay with the way I looked. And mind you, these people are built like Greek gods, and like people would die to look like they looked, but they were still hollow on the inside. And that's an inability to accept yourself. That's an inability to look yourself in the eye and say, you know what, I'm okay. You know what, I like myself. I mean, if you really want to break it down, every single effort that people partake in this world to make themselves have a higher social standing, make themselves make more money, make themselves like, you know, wear the latest designer clothes or the nicest car, the nicest house. Essentially, what you're doing there is you're saying to the world, I want you to like me so that I like myself. That maybe if X amount of people say that I'm great, then I'll believe I'm great. And it's really sad when you break it down to this, but this is what this video is going to talk about.
His
I don't want
attitude
to
towards himself and his own
give
dark
it away yet.
side. If the doctor wants to guide another, or even accompany him a step of the way, he must feel with that person's psyche. He never feels it when he passes judgment. Whether he puts his
So this is a big difference between Jung and Freud. Jung had to analyze himself. He had to fix himself so that he could objectively see his patients, because otherwise he would be projecting himself onto them. Whereas Freud was unwilling to dig into the depths of his psyche because he didn't want his reputation to be in any way destroyed. and it really led to like kind of a gap between him and his patients. It led to him kind of grouping people into boxes. If you know anything about Freudian psychology, it's everything has a relationship to sex. Everything has a relationship to sexual repression, which I think is in itself a projection. But, you know, we kind of just went off of it because Freud was so well respected. But it's really funny to see Freud's own projection become psychological theory.
His judgments into words or keeps them to himself makes not the slightest difference. To take the opposite position and to agree with the patient offhand is also of no use. Feeling comes only through unprejudiced objectivity. This sounds almost like a scientific precept, and it could be confused with a purely intellectual, abstract attitude of mind.
So, like, think about it this way. He's saying, don't judge other people through your eyes. Like, pretend you were them. Pretend you experienced everything they experienced. Would you feel the same way? And you most likely would. You know, if you were born in that person's place, if you experienced everything they experienced, if you learned everything they had learned, if you had done everything they had done, you would probably be the exact same person. And essentially, that's what he's saying. It's that we can pass judgment from our own perspective, but it's always incorrect because you never see the full picture. You know, think of when someone's criticized you and they've been completely wrong. It's not that they're wrong, they're right in their own eyes, but they don't see the full picture. And that's really what he's saying. You can never see the full picture. You can never observe anybody as they really are. You can only see your own fractured version of what you observe.
But what I mean is something quite different. It is a human quality, a kind of deep respect for the facts, for the man who suffers from them,
Do you
and for
believe
the
any
riddle of
human
such a man.
can achieve objectivity? No, because even objectivity is not objectivity. It's always going to be in some way altered by your own perspective. And like, I mean, I really just don't believe in absolutes. So that's going to be my answer. I think there's always something beyond understanding. So for that reason, no. You could get close, you could approximate it, but that's not, in essence. I don't know. We're going to get too philosophical, and I feel like I'm going to derail the conversation. But no.
Life. The truly religious person has this attitude. He knows that God has brought all sorts of strange and inconceivable things to pass, and seeks in the most curious ways to enter a man's heart. He therefore senses in everything the unseen presence of the divine will. This is what I mean by unprejudiced objectivity. It is a moral achievement on the part of the doctor.
Schopenhauer said something along the lines of all compassion springs from the recognition that this art thou, that you're everything, that you're connected to everything in some way. And there really is something special in that. You know, seeing yourself in the other person's eyes, seeing, you know, that you would be exactly the same if you went through everything they went through.
Who ought not to let himself be repelled by sickness and corruption. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. I am the oppressor of the person I condemn, not his friend and fellow sufferer.
Condemnation is not the liberator, it's the oppressor. Do you agree with labeling yourself with personality disorders? Because there are so many behavioral disorders these days. I mean, I think it's interesting to have a framework. I think it could benefit in some ways, but I think a lot of things are like I don't know, I don't necessarily know if it benefits the person to know their condition because for the rest of their lives they're like, I have this, I can't do this. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like obviously there's serious conditions that, you know, you need to be treated in a certain way, but like using blanket terms like I have anxiety or I have depression, I don't necessarily think it's a good thing for people to say because it just you're kind of using it as a defense mechanism to have a defect in your personality. Whereas I think there's ways you can move through it. I think there's ways you can improve. But again, I'm not going to say that in like extreme cases it's a bad thing to have these words. I just think it's kind of how it's overused. You know, it's like we have all of these mental health resources, but they don't really stop the problem. Like the problem is just getting worse, and the more money we spend on it, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it's like, ooh, what if we did some prevention instead of the critical infrastructure? It's very, I don't know. I think these problems are like multifaceted and you can't really solve simply, but I would say that it's not good the overuse of these terms, and the more you tell someone they're not a certain way because they have a certain disease, they're going to accept that. Um, it's bad. Like I know several people that are like very high functioning autistic, and like I don't know if this is necessarily the reason, but like they have it in their head that there's something wrong with them, and I think it holds them back. I think it stops them from kind of just being there in the conversation. I think they're in their own head. So maybe if they had just not been diagnosed, like they're pretty much fully functional, except they're just a little weird. Like I wonder if they would just have adapted better. And again, it's I'm not the doctor, so I don't know the exact circumstances. Maybe they've worked on it, but to me, telling yourself that you can't do something because you're diagnosed with something because you have some defect, like, okay, it's just now you're just using a crutch. Like I don't want people to have crutches. I want people to start trying to walk on their own. I want people to start trying to get better. And when you give someone an excuse to not be good, when you give someone an excuse not to try, they're going to take it most of the time. Accept it, question mark? What do you mean?
I do not in the least mean to say that we must never pass judgment when we desire to help and improve. But if the doctor wishes to help a human being, he must be able to accept him as he is. And he can do this in reality only when he has already seen and accepted himself as he is.
Okay, so think of it this way. We always hear that phrase like hate never comes from above because why if I'm like perfectly okay with myself, why would I try to bring others down? And essentially this is what it's saying. It's like a healthy person doesn't need to harm others. A healthy person doesn't need to make fun of others, bully them, try to bring them down, you know. Have you ever been in like a room where like what's a good example? Like I'm trying to think of how to even phrase this. So like I've been like hanging out with friends and then like the guys will be like, "Oh, look at that girl over there. She's so attractive." And the one girl in the group will be like, "Ah, she's not this." It's like it's because she's jealous. Like that's really what it is. She wouldn't have to bring down some random person she didn't know if she didn't feel some type of way, if it didn't harm her ego in some type of way. Essentially, that's what he's saying. If you accept something, you'd want to change it. Most people don't though. And that's the thing. Um, it seems like you would, it seems like I would, it seems like Sahita would. But there's a lot of people that would rather have an excuse not to try and just take that. You know, look at most of the world. Most of the world can give you a sob story and say, "Well, I wasn't this because of this. I wasn't this because of this." And it's like, did you give it everything you could? And if you don't ask yourself that question, um, then you'll always have that excuse. But once you ask yourself that question, then you know you didn't. Accepting others has nothing to do with change. You can never change. Oh, okay. I'm talking about something different then. Okay, I get what you're saying. Thank you, Infinite Creator.
Perhaps this
Thank you, I
sounds
will.
very simple, but simple things are always the most difficult. In actual life, it requires the greatest art to be simple, and so acceptance of oneself is the essence of the moral problem.
These simple acts make man simple, and how difficult is it to be simple? Wow, that's a very profound statement right there. So think about how easy is it for you to sit in a room and be bored? How easy is it for you to sit in a room, have your phone going off, and continue to read that book? You know, go on a walk, meditate. Like it's the simple things that are going to make you happy. It's the simple things that are going to bring you the most fulfillment, but it's the most difficult thing to do because it's not fun, it's not entertaining, but it's what you need to do. You know, you don't need to eat the junk food, but you do need to eat the vegetables, but you don't want to eat the junk food. or you want to eat the junk food, you don't want to eat the vegetables.
and the acid
Thank you,
test of
Infinite
one's
Creator. I
whole
will.
outlook on life. That I feed the beggar, that I forgive an insult, that I love my enemy in the name of Christ, all these are undoubtedly great virtues. What I do unto the least of my brethren, that I do unto Christ. But what if I should discover that the least amongst them all, the poorest of all beggars, the most impudent of all offenders, yea, the very fiend himself, that these are within me, and that I
So, what he's really saying here is we all have the capacity to be wicked. We all have the capacity to be evil. And it's when we understand that and curtail that that we can do something with it. It's really the alchemical transmutation that the alchemists were talking about. Essentially, if you break down what he's saying, Jung was borderline a mystic, and this is what he's saying. He's kind of just using these symbols
myself
differently.
stand in need of the alms of my own kindness, that I myself am the enemy who must be loved, what then? Then, as a rule, the whole truth of Christianity is reversed. There is then no more talk of love and long-suffering. We say to the brother within us, Raka, and condemn and rage against ourselves. We hide him from the world. We deny ever having met this least among the lowly in ourselves, and had it been God himself who drew near to us in this despicable form, we should have denied him 1,000 times before a single cock had crowed. Healing may be called, Jung says, a religious problem. In the sphere of social or national relations, the state of suffering
So he's just kind of talking about projection here, where again, everything you do to others, everything you find wrong with someone else is really what you don't like about yourself. So, you know, even if like this is something I've been guilty of myself. Like one of the insults I used to call people is like, "Oh, this person's an idiot. This person's dumb." And even that's like, even that's projection. Even that's me saying like, I don't feel either it's I don't feel confident in my own intelligence or I don't have something that they have, so I need to bring them down for something they don't. And it's like, why am I doing this? Why am I feel the need to bring down others? People I don't know, people I don't understand, people I don't even like. If I don't like somebody, why am I spending energy on them? Why am I giving them my time? Why am I putting any sort of effort into anything about them? Like the greatest revenge you can get on someone that tries to bring you down, the greatest revenge you can get on somebody that has broken your heart is to forgive them because you're no longer thinking about them. They no longer have any control over you. They no longer have any power. But the more you linger, the more you try to bring back the past, is the more you subject yourself to them. Must be brave of Jung to bring mysticism to a scientific field. He could have faced condemnation. I mean, that's really a lot of the reason why Jung isn't talked about today. Is because he kind of bridged the gap. There's certain circles that love Jung. There's a lot of circles that kind of dismiss him. Um, Jung is the thing about Jung is a lot of his writings he kind of steeped in analytical and scientific proof. Like psychology and alchemy is literally about Jung's obsession with the process of alchemy, but he made it into a psychological work through his genius writing. But you really see his mystic or esoteric side in the Red Book, which wasn't published until 50 years after his death. So there even were some things that he believed, that he thought, that he was unwilling to get into the public. And maybe that's for the best because if these things were published instantly, maybe he would have not been able to establish himself, not be able to establish that field of psychology and that thought in psychology, and maybe it wouldn't have become so synonymous with psychology and so influential in the field. So maybe it is for the good because there is that sort of mystical angle. But yeah. But Jung was also into dream analysis, which you can't separate dream analysis from mysticism and symbols. You frankly can't. Whether you believe it in or not, the symbols will just always be there. So, like, it kind of benefited him to be in that field. Whereas if he was in another field, it would have been kind of hard. Like, even Sir Isaac Newton was a alchemist, which is just, it's a mystic. It's just a another blanket term, but essentially he wrote more about the Bible and alchemy than he did physics or calculus. So it's like, Tesla had like psychic like abilities that he could see inventions in his head and then just copy them on a sheet of paper. And he was a devout atheist. Like he didn't believe in the shit, but he had mystical like powers, you would say. Like what is that aside from the psychic that you see on the side of the road? It's just it's weird. If you don't see yourself, if you don't see it in yourself, you won't notice it in others. Yes. Forgiveness liberates you, not the one who harmed you. Most people don't feel guilty about hurting others. That's true. But even if you feel guilty about hurting others, it's you have to forgive yourself for that as well. Because it's just like if you continue to linger on that and you continue to flagellate yourself for that, like it's not something that's healthy and it's not something that's going to allow you to move on. It's something that's going to keep you in that same state. If you really don't want to hurt people in the future, you have to forgive yourself for doing that. And you have to be able to recognize your capacity for doing that again. Because if you just continue to linger on it, you're going to continue to do it. It's, there's, I wish I knew the passage, but there's something in the Bible that's like, you don't renounce evil, you have to rebuke it. You have to take it out of your life. And I think that's one of the most intelligent ways to put it.
Suffering may be civil war, and this state is to be cured by the Christian virtue of forgiveness and love of one's enemies. That which we recommend with the conviction of good Christians as applicable to external situations, we must also apply inwardly in the treatment of neurosis. This is why modern man has heard enough about guilt and sin. He is sorely beset by his own bad conscience, and wants rather to know how he is to reconcile himself with his own nature, how he is to love the enemy.
Even these words like guilt and sin, they hold so much like a negative connotation. And really they don't mean what they mean. Like sin originally means to misstep, and it's kind of been turned into this bad word where we're like, well, you're a sinner, you're this, you're that. And it holds like a vitriol, it holds like a poison. It's like a label we put on ourselves that like makes us feel bad about it. And if you feel bad about something, it's going to fester, it's going to build, it's going to create a side of yourself that you hold back. And whenever you hold back something, whenever you push it to the bottom, whenever you don't allow it to be expressed, it's going to be expressed in a negative way. Whereas like I'm somebody who used to be like I don't know if I'd say aggressive or like very hard on myself, and it would sometimes come out as being hard on others. And instead of now doing that, I keep that same passion. I put it to other things. I put it to creative endeavors. I put it to things that are beneficial to me instead of coming out in ways that I can't really control. And that's really what we need to start thinking about. We need to start reframing these things. We need to start, you know, stop putting energy into things that don't benefit you. Stop putting your attention on things that you can't change. Accept them, learn from them, and move on. This is where we disagree, loving your enemy. You don't agree with loving your enemy?
In his own heart, and call the
Or
wolf
you
his
do?
brother. The modern man does not want to know in what way he can
I mean, I don't necessarily say at the very least you have to be indifferent to your enemy. There are certain people that you'll never be able to love in a sense, but you can be indifferent, and that's almost as good. That's negative passivity. What do you mean? Explain that.
imitate Christ, but in what way he can live his own individual life, however meager and uninteresting it may be. It is because every form of imitation seems to him deadening and sterile that he rebels against the force of tradition that would hold him.
That's beyond human capacity. Loving your enemy or being indifferent? I'm confused. Give me
Well-trodden
longer
ways.
chat so I could get what you're saying.
All such roads for him lead in the wrong direction. He may not know it, but he behaves as if his own individual life were God's special will which must be fulfilled at all costs. This is the source of his egoism, which is one of the most tangible evils of the neurotic state. But the person who tells him he is too egoistic has already lost his
Loving your enemies beyond human capacity? I don't think so. I think it's difficult. It's something that takes years of practice and years of um because when we say love, like I think love is an overused word. I would say you can forgive and that's just as good. You know what I mean? And even feel sympathetic. I think that's essentially what it means to love your enemy. Feel sympathetic and say, you know what? I'd probably be the same. You can only do that when you can leave your personal self and look at yourself and the enemy. Yeah. Yeah, that's essentially what I mean.
confidence, and rightly so.
How can you love someone who doesn't want any good for you? There's a ton of people that don't want any good for me, but that doesn't mean I despise them. That doesn't mean I can, like, I'm sure there's people, like, I'm sure I have exes that hate me and I don't want them to be unhappy. I want them to find happiness. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I can want good for people that don't want good for me. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know what I mean? Maybe there's extreme examples where I would disagree, but I don't think it's necessarily, uh, that's a bad thing. I think that's like a sign of compassion, a sign of empathy.
For that person has driven him still further into his neurosis. If I wish to effect a cure for my patients, I am forced to acknowledge the deep significance of their egoism. I
I
should be
don't hate
blind
them, but I
indeed
can't love them.
if
See, that's fair. And I don't think that's necessarily wrong. I mean, it like the ultimate goal is you love them, but that's not, I don't know if that's necessarily achievable, but as long as you don't like, I don't know, because I have this friend, he's hysterical, he's a really good friend, but he like will tell me that someone unfollowed him on Instagram like 5 years ago, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna get back at them." I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you care? Like, there's someone you've not talked to in like years. Like, why do you care if they unfollowed you on Instagram? You're like, I don't know, but the world shall know pain, and I'm like, all right, man. Like, that's like a whole nother level of hater where it's like the dude will shoot himself in the foot to get back at you. It's just like it's almost comical. I don't know if he's joking or not, but like it's a good example to
I did
use.
not recognize it as a true will of God. I must even help the patient to prevail in his egoism. If he succeeds in this, he estranges himself from other people. He drives them away, and they come to themselves as they should, for they were seeking to rob him of his sacred egoism. This must be left to him, for it is his strongest and
So he's saying he should let his patients make their own mistakes. And this is something like if you know the right thing to do, if you give someone advice and they don't listen, don't be mad at them. Because in years, they're going to understand. In years, they're going to be like, you know what, I should have just listened, but I wasn't in the position to. I wasn't looking at it right. I was viewing it in the wrong way. I thought you were giving me bad advice and I should have just, sucked it up, taken the hit to my ego and said, yeah, you're right.
healthiest power.
That's one of like the biggest lessons I feel like I've learned, especially doing this, is like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. It's that like you can give everyone exactly what they need to do and they won't do it. But even if you don't make them do something, even if you don't push them in the right direction, at least having this information, they can go back and say, oh, this is what he meant. And I think that's just as important.
It is, as I have said, a true
Like
will
to
of
me,
God.
there's so many things that I've read that I've like kind of dismissed, and I wish I could think of an example, but essentially like I knew what to do in a certain scenario. I knew how to curtail my own emotions. I knew how to in some way respond better. Made the wrong decision, looked back and was like, I knew the right answer, just didn't do it. And it's like certain things take you, you know, sometimes you have to put your hand on the stove before you figure out that like It's not a smart thing to do. Like you have to make the mistake. You have to learn the lesson the hard way before you can take the advice you were meant to take.
which sometimes drives him into complete isolation. However wretched this state may be, it also stands him in good stead, for in this way alone can he get to know himself and learn what an invaluable treasure is the love of his fellow beings. It is, moreover, only in the state of complete abandonment and loneliness that we experience the helpful powers of our own natures. When one has several times seen this development at work, one can no longer deny that what was evil has turned to good, and that what seemed good.
So he's using the Taoist symbol right now, the yin yang. And really what I want you to think about is this is the dualistic nature to everything. For there to be good, there needs to be bad. For your trait to be good, it must also have the capacity to be bad. So like Emerson says something along the lines of there's no such thing as a good trait that also didn't have bad aspects, and there's no such thing as a bad trait that didn't have good aspects. So like ambition. I don't think ambition is a good trait, but a lot of people do. Ambition can lead someone to become very successfully in the worldly sense of things. It can, create Alexander the Great or Julius Caesar. But ambition is also the same thing that led to these two men's death. Caesar wanted to become dictator for life after he had won a great battle against Pompey. He could have retired. He could have been a powerful man. He could have been a rich man. He could have been an old man. I mean, I think he was in his 50s. I don't know if that was old back then, but it's ultimately his ambition that led to his death. It's his need to say more. Um, it's the same thing as Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great conquered the whole known world and discovered more and wanted more. And instead of turning back, he said, "No, we're gonna get more." And then he was poisoned. He never lost a battle, but still died. And it's like there's always something negative about the positive. There's always something positive about the negative. We could flip the inverse. Think of the Napoleon complex. Napoleon was short, and I don't know if this is propaganda. I don't know how tall he is. I don't think he was that short, but essentially, like his lack in physical stature made him have to make up in other ways. And it's like there's always good with the bad. There's always bad with the good. You lost your job. Okay, that means that you can improve your resume and get a better one. That means that now you can open yourself up to a better opportunity. Okay, you got a job, but that means a job that might have been better, that might have paid more, that might have been closer to home. Now you can't take it because you took this one. Like there's always positive and negative. There's always yin yang. There's always an ebb and a flow.
Good has kept alive the forces of evil. The
I wish I could
archdemon
read
of
that what that meant.
egoism leads us along the royal road to that ingathering which religious experience demands. What we observe here is a fundamental law of life, enantiodromia, or conversion into the opposite. And it is this that makes possible the reunion of the warring halves of the personality, and thereby brings the civil war to an end.
Conversion into the opposite. He's talking about so like take your capacity to get angry, take your capacity to be emotional. That's just energy. That's just passion. And you could put that passion into something positive. You could put that into a creative endeavor. You could put that into something that is worthwhile. You could spend that energy with the people that you love. You could spend that energy with your friends. But instead you're spending it hating on other people that you don't like. You know what I mean? It's like you only have so much energy to give, and you're giving it to people that don't deserve it, essentially is what it's saying.
End of quote.
To confront a person with their shadow is to show them their own light. So again, for there to be darkness, there needs to be light. For there to be light, there needs to be darkness. And it's this dualistic nature. It's this yin yang that provides the world with anything. But with that said, I'm gonna have to get going. I got some stuff I gotta do, and I'm starting to lose my voice. I may stream again later. Um, I think I'll have some time. So stay tuned for that. No promises because it's me. I feel like I've been bad about consistency lately, but I would try to stream again later. But with that said, I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. Catch you in the next one.